And back now with our Mother's Day panel, and I'm happy to say they are all moms. Bay Buchanan has a new book about her adventures as a single mom with 3 boys. Anita Dunn is a top Democratic strategist, mother of 4. Melinda Henneberger writes a column called She the People for the Washington Post. She has 16-year-old twins. And when our own Norah O'Donnell isn't chasing news at the White House, she's chasing after her 3 children, all of whom are under the age of 5, 2 of whom are twins. I would like to announce that I qualify for this panel as well because I have 2 daughters and 3 granddaughters, 2 of whom are identical twins. Well, let's talk about the women's vote and where women are today. Both sides are accusing the other in this campaign of waging a war on women, which I expect is a little overdrawn, but this is an election year, so that's the sort of rhetoric we talk about on election days and election campaigns. But are women being taken for granted this time around, Bay Buchanan? Is there a war being waged by one side or the other? You, of course, are a Republican. Everybody knows that.
Of course, conservative Republican. There's, the idea that there's a war on women coming from our side certainly is completely manufactured. I mean, no one in their right mind would go after women. And I found it very, very unfortunate, Bob, that there was an attack on, for instance, Ann Romney because she was an at-home mom. I find that the last thing we need to do is divide moms into categories, at home or working, single or married, because moms have so much in common, and we support one another and can help one another and be there, and it's no place to be dividing any mom. So I thought that was enormously unfortunate.
Anita?
I think the reason that you see such a substantial gender gap in the polls, Bob, is because actually there are 2 good reasons: President Obama's record and Mitt Romney's policies. So I think if you look at the Obama record in terms of women, it is really groundbreaking. He took office, he set up a council on women and children so that he could look at how the federal government's policies affect women, something that had never been done before. And whether it's the Affordable Care Act, which makes sure that having a baby is no longer a pre-existing condition for women, that children get covered no matter what their pre-existing conditions, whether it's been the expansion of the EITC, which helps working women keep more of their money, whether it is policies across the board, that this president's policies for women have been extraordinary. And Mitt Romney has a backward-looking attitude, particularly when it comes to women, that I think will come out.
Okay, I guess I'd best let
I would love to respond.
To that.
I think this is where it's going to happen. And if there's been any war, whether it's deliberate or not, on women, it's clearly come from the Obama White House. Because if you look, we all know that more jobs have been lost, more homes have been lost during this administration than since the Great Depression. But maybe many of us don't know that all of the jobs lost by Americans in these last 3 years have been lost by women. And if women of all people don't care about their kids, that is what drives us. And what are we seeing as our children? 53% of the kids that we've worked so hard to put through college do not have any jobs whatsoever. Women care about this enormously. They need that security to take care of themselves and their own family, especially single moms, something I was. And when you have an economy that's not providing the jobs either for themselves or for their kids, that is a voting issue that I promise we'll see in November.
We'll come back to this. I want to go to the other side of the table here because I want to ask you all as journalists, this issue, this gay marriage thing, the president really, I think the election moved to another stage when he made that announcement. Melinda, how important is it going to be? Could this be a defining issue, or as some people say, no, it's still going to be about the economy and that's it?
I think it will still largely be about the economy. This will lose him some votes, maybe in North Carolina, which he won in 2008. He will have a tougher time given that they just put kind of a triple padlock against same-sex marriage in that state. But I think politically he'll pick up some enthusiasm from younger voters, but it was really important for him to do that because, so in a larger sense, I think it's a win for him. If the Democratic Party and if his campaign is about anything, it's about fairness, and so there was that disconnect, and I think it's also important for his credibility, which is huge in any presidential election. People, I think, didn't believe that he did not support same-sex marriage, much as a lot of people don't believe Mitt Romney doesn't really support it, given that he used to. I think it was important for the president's credibility for him to make that statement, and it works against Mitt Romney in that way for him not to say the same.
So, Norah, walk us back on this. How did this come out at this time?
Well, I think the vice president got ahead of himself in announcing what was an administration policy. Administration aides were very open about expressing their frustration with Vice President Biden for doing that, and then leaked, which I thought was pretty interesting, that Biden went into the Oval Office and apologized. I mean, I ask all the time about conversations in the Oval Office, and I'm told conversations between the president and the vice president are sacrosanct. We don't have to talk about those, but they were willing to tell us that the vice president apologized. I think that just sends a message about who's in charge in the White House. That's why they wanted to do that. But on the policy issue of same-sex marriage, I don't think in the end it's going to be determinative in this election. The economy and jobs is still important. Same-sex marriage and the different positions are going to motivate different groups. They're going to get them enthused. That's going to happen anyway as we get closer to November. So we'll help both sides raise money, both sides turn out people.
You don't subscribe to this conspiracy theory that came about shortly after this, when people were saying, oh, this was all part of the plot, that the vice president did this, it was all part of a scripted thing that was going to happen? Well,
Anita is a communications specialist, but I think most people would, if the White House were trying to leak something successfully, they would not hand it off to Joe Biden to do that. With all due respect to the vice president. So I think this was just a natural discussion. He was asked a question, and he put forward what was, and look, President Obama was pretty much the last Democrat in this country to have not endorsed same-sex marriage. So he had to do this before the debates and the conventions. And I think they also kind of looked at the landscape and said, let's do this early on so we can focus on the economy.
Was he in fact planning to do this?
You know, I'm not going to speak to the president's timing. He spoke to that himself. But what is important here, and I think the previous panel talked about it, this is clearly something he believes and he feels very strongly about. And any elected official is going to do better when they're talking from their heart. And I think it's one of the reasons why you had a very strong reaction to it this week. It's clearly a matter of principle for him. It may help him politically, it may not help him politically, but it's something he believes in. I want just a second to go back to something Bay said earlier, though, and also I want to say Happy Mother's Day to all the women on set here. You know, the month that the president took office, this economy shed 750,000 jobs, including 266,000 women who lost their jobs in 1 month. And over the past, since the stimulus has had a chance to take effect, 4.2 million private sector jobs have been created in this country, including millions for women. But the reality of this, Bob, is that the way that we're going to create the jobs that Bay and I both agree are what women want, what everybody wants in this country. We want our kids to have good jobs. The way we're going to do that is by building an economy that lasts, that has a foundation that lasts, that isn't bubble to bubble. And I think that that's really the issue in this presidential election. And we all agree jobs are a critical thing for moms, particularly because now the majority of moms are working.
Okay, let me get back to what we were talking about here, beginning though. Is this issue going to hurt Barack Obama?
Gay marriage?
Do you think? Yes.
Well, first of all, I agree that no question that the major issue is going to be the president's record. You just aren't going to get away from that. It's the economy. But this is key at this time because what he has allowed us, we are pulling together that Republican Party. It has intensified the support. The party is going to be unified going into that convention as never before. And number two, they have trouble. We now have Mitt Romney, who's always been opposed to gay marriage, I might add, but that is where America is. You have 32 states out there who have banned it. They have never won on the ballot. And so what happens in North Carolina now, this is great, in Iowa, in several states, but 32 of them are with us. I think that it's no question, if this was good politics for Barack Obama, he'd have done it a long time ago. He wouldn't have had to been dragged kicking and screaming.
Let me, I just want to ask you all about something because it's just what everybody is talking about. And this is this cover of Time magazine. Let's put it up here on the screen.
Oh my gosh, do you have to?
Well, it turns out I don't have it. So there it is. There it is, right there. You can see it.
It's child pornography.
What is this all about?
It's not a Mother's Day gift to most of us to have another message that says you're not mom enough if you don't look like this terrific looking woman. And the story's not even
Well, the kid
about...
looks like he's well, he's not
Exactly.
a teenager, but
Exactly.
And the story's not even about breastfeeding. It's about a 72-year-old doctor, and I'm sure they were right that this woman looks far better than he. But the story is about this doctor who has many more views on how to be the right kind of mom versus the wrong kind of mom, and I think the timing of it was odd.
Norah.
Yeah, I think it's a provocative cover meant to sell magazines and generate a discussion, but it also generates a discussion around women and mothers, who are the majority of this workforce. And in fact, 70% of women with children under 18 are in the workforce. We are consumers, we're voters, we're journalists, and so we're a powerful force, and I think that's why this really revs up and gets a lot of discussion going, especially on Mother's Day.
Exactly. You know, Bay said earlier that we shouldn't pit moms against moms. I couldn't agree more. And anytime you get an "Are you mom enough?" cover, that's exactly where it seems to be going. You know, and what Norah said is absolutely right. I mean, 65% of the single moms in this country work. 70% of moms work overall. We need to hang together. I mean, everyone's got a job, let's face it, because as a mom, I think we can all agree, being a mother is the most challenging job in the world. When you have to add through choice or necessity and out of home job as well, it's even more challenging, right? But at the end of the day, you know, something like this, it's going to sell magazines, but the discussion about moms should never pit moms against another, because every mom's got her own model.
They went too far on this cover. It is disgusting, and I consider it child pornography to even suggest this child that looks so old, 5 or 6, to be in that kind of a position on a cover. And also, what does it suggest? How long should we nurse our babies, or should we nurse our babies, or what is it best? This is nonsense. This is for women to decide. We don't need anyone on the outside telling us what's best in our family to do, because we all are different, and so are our children. So I just think it is an outrage that they even suggest this kind of cover or the headline to it.
What's the state of women today? You know, when I came to work at CBS News in this bureau, there was one producer, there was a woman, one woman that was a correspondent, one woman that worked on the desk. And when one of those 3 left, they replaced her with a woman. Now, I would say, what would you say, Norah? More than half the people in this bureau are women. At TCU in our journalism school, 70% of the students there going into journalism are women. How would you say women's chances are right now, Bay Buchanan? Is there equality?
There's the opportunities are unlimited, both through the universities as well as business and professional. And I think what's key for women, there's often too much talk about look to see how you're treated and what you can do, and you better not do that because so many people will say that's beneath you and they're just asking you to get coffee because you're a woman. It's so much nonsense. I think the message to young women today is do whatever you can, learn, be part of the team,
I would just
be willing.
strongly disagree with that. I just think that women have had for the past 30 years equal opportunity in college. We now have more women who are getting medical degrees, PhDs than men, but you had for the first time in the last election the number of women in Congress decrease. There is a glass ceiling in politics. We only have 17% of women in the House and the Senate. And so while women are the driving force in the economy in terms of consumer decisions, they're not represented in politics or in the White House or in the halls of Congress. And that
they have a
affects
choice.
decisions.
They can run or not run,
paid the
and we
same
choose
way.
not to run because women in politics have an equal opportunity to win. And that is time and
That is
again. And in
absolutely
fact,
true.
they have an edge to men often because they're more trusted. And so they choose not to run because of their own personal lives, their commitment to family or whatever small business they might have. So it's ridiculous to say we have to have equal
On that
everywhere it
note,
is.
I want to say Happy Mother's Day.
Thank you.